So we are back, baby! Well, I say we, it's not the collective we anymore. It's basically me, plus a very good friend. I am, of course, your glorious host, your comic books Jesus. And here is my, I don't know, what do you want to be? Peter, my rock? Judas? A doubting Thomas? Maybe Mary Magdalene?
I'll be your Nightwing. How's that?
Yes! The Nightwing to my Jesus. Okay, of course, that glorious voice was Tim. Scarlett Johansson, what on earth have you done?
So I see two issues here. One is whether it just made a reputational mistake in doing this. The other one is just the legal argument. I definitely don't want to get into any legal technicalities. That would be very boring. But this,
no, please do.
One thing I will say about that is, strictly speaking, this is not a breach of contract case. This is a case called tortious interference with a contractual obligation. And so what that means is that she's not saying to Marvel, hey, you breached my contract by failing to do an exclusive theatrical release. She's saying to Disney, hey, you intentionally interfere with Marvel's ability to abide by the terms of the contract. And so it's a tort rather than a breach of contract. And the reason why that probably matters is there's probably something... Well, there's two possible reasons. One is either those are the facts, like that's actually what did happen, and it would be a mistake to just allege a breach of contract when there's this other fault, right? The second reason, though, is probably there's probably a provision in her agreement that says that any breach of contract claims have to be arbitrated as opposed to being filed in court, and so if she files a straight breach of contract action, what would happen is she just get kicked to arbitration and she wouldn't be able to do it in open court. The reason you want to do it open court is because you get discovery and you can open up like the financials and get all this information in the public record, which is, I think, just a leverage point to get them to settle. So that's, I think, probably the underlying legal
and also
decision. Now, of course, I'm not privy to any of what they know. I'm just looking at it, just observing it from a vantage point of like having some idea of how lawsuits work.
This is never going to court, is it? Because no one wants that precedent set.
Exactly. She's trying to
no way, shape, or form.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what they're going to do, whether they'll do it or not. It sounds like I had read something about Disney had at least hinted at developing some kind of alternative model for compensation in these sort of dual release programs. So, theatrical versus street. So all right, whatever. That's the legal issue, and that'll just get resolved. Either I'll be right or wrong. We'll know what happens. But it's an interesting issue about like what this does to her reputation, or maybe even her relationship with studios going forward, right? And my own view is, I generally, without having perfect knowledge, I generally am labor over management. So I'm not immediately thinking I'd want to critique her for filing the lawsuit. It may or may not be wise for her reputation or her career, but generally speaking, coming from like a union family, I generally am like labor over management. But beyond that, it does seem like it's kind of split. I mean, I haven't taken a poll, obviously, but I've just sort of been trying to observe, on Twitter or other like snapshot public opinion sections about whether people are with her or against her. And I don't know, it seems kind of split. I think it's probably like people who are generally, she makes enough money already. What is the issue here? What's the problem? Probably are not going to be with her. People who are maybe more like me are going to presumptively be for her. I don't know.
My issue isn't the money that she's got already. My issue is people need to separate the time, the specific issue to this time. If Disney had put this out and it didn't perform the first 2 weekends and switched it to Premier Access, then that's like a bit of a bait and switch whereby they're just being greedy and keeping most of the money. They've found a loophole whereby they don't have to pay. I think what the difference is, I did some quick numbers, like it took 360 odd million. You take away a third of that for the cinemas, think the film costs, say, 130 for marketing, that's 260. So when I did the full numbers, it came out that they lost about 190 million on it. So my issue is, it wasn't to increase the profitability of Disney or the film, it was to retroactively save them for higher losses. Now, I think that when Scarlett Johansson's saying, where's my cut of that money, what you're asking for is a share of the losses. So if she's saying, I want 5% of that, well, if we're doing a profit share, then fair enough, you can help pay us back for the 190 million that we've lost on this. The biggest irony of it is, the biggest cost outside of marketing in the production budget is the actors themselves. So really, the money that they've lost could be partially, entirely attributed to the cost of paying her the first time. So what she's actually asking them for is the money that they've lost that would have actually have gone to pay her, she wants again. And I'm getting sick and tired, especially in the fucking Olympics. Everyone said, I love the Olympics, by the way, so much.
You
but
really
the
do
Olympics, I fucking love the Olympics. Like it's a woman, a big titty sexy lady. That's how much I like it, baby. A big titty sexy Asian skateboard. Oh no, because everyone like teenagers, weren't they? Swimmer, Australian swimmer that swears. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Oh shit. So yeah, but they're all saying after a difficult year, right, but people were still winning gold medals and breaking world records. And I know that like this has affected different people differently. Like I had a real tough time in the last couple of lockdowns. Like my mental health was in the gutter. Thankfully, I woke up one day, felt better. And it was actually the Olympics that turned me around, because if I wanted to get up at 2 a.m, then I had to go to bed at 6 o'clock. And getting that routine back made me feel a lot better. And getting back to the point, you have to accept that every single person, except for fucking Bezos, or whatever his fucking name is, Jeff Bezos or whatever, whoever it is at Amazon, everybody has felt this. That's what's driving that decision making. And by the way, Disney have put a bunch of stuff on there, like a lot of the Pixar stuff's gone straight to, without even Premier Access. So they've done the absolute best they could absolute best they could with the MCU, because Kevin Feige didn't want it. But there came a threshold whereby something had to give, because the TV stuff was linked to the theatrical stuff. The bit where who's US agent?
Oh, John Walker.
Yeah. Where the lady from Seinfeld comes in and...
Yep.
Yeah, like Madam Hydra or whoever it was. And then Yelena scene was supposed to be before that scene. So they've already delayed it and reshuffled the order so it didn't hurt it. They couldn't delay it. This is just a byproduct of one of the things that's affected everybody in the last 18 months. And I know that doesn't excuse people from not paying them properly. It's not a cover-all excuse, but I think in this very specific instance, there's a very specific series of events where you have an organisation that's trying to protect themselves against even bigger losses. And if you have an actress that's saying, I don't get to be affected by this, having already been paid, say if it just didn't make any money at the box office.
Yeah.
What then? She wouldn't have got any money anyway.
Yep.
And the difference with the Premier Access is they did 60 million in the first couple of weeks. That is 100% Disney money. Mm-hmm. The cinemas keep 30%. Your marketing budget's the same as your production budget. So you need to make 3 times production before you even make $1. And it's even worse with the Chinese market, because they keep 70% and only 30% comes back. The drop-off for the film was like to about 30%. That's completely indicative of all superhero films. That's not because of the Premier Access, unless you get something like Joker, which the word of mouth brings it in and there wasn't that much expectation or hype for. It's just something completely out of the ordinary. Because it's fear of missing out, it's because of the spoilers. Most superheroes drop to 35 to 25% second weekend. Most films in general will do 75% of their entire box office worldwide within the first 4 weeks. And then it peters off at like a logarithmic curve. It just tapers off. So I ask her, would she have been any better off if it just stuck in the cinemas? All it's done is provided an extra revenue source for Disney, who were being hit hard because they had to release at that moment. I actually think the whole delaying films things was a bit curious, because the way that they keep delaying them, it's on the premise that they're never going to make another film. So they have these films, and if they move them to next year, then that's good, because next year's covered. But all they've done is stop themselves for 18 months having any revenue. They'll still make films. The only difference is now next year's full box office is this year's films instead of next year's films, and the year after and the year after and the year after. So instead They've just displaced it with a zero. Whereas if they've just let it flow through, they've clawed some money back now, but then they would also have the full box office for next year for the films that were supposed to be made and released. And the increasing competition, every weekend there's going to be like 2 inverted commas blockbusters. They may have just been better off shrugging their shoulders, just letting it run through and saying to Scarlett Johansson, okay, you don't get anything because we didn't make anything.
Right, right. You'll get your exclusive box office, but you're not actually getting anything. I'm totally sympathetic to that. I get what you're saying entirely. One thing I will add, let's just assume for the sake of argument that an exclusive theatrical release would have made money. Okay, so they'll have to show that. They'll have to show that. But assuming for the sake of argument it does, then she's probably entitled to that. That's all I'm saying. And they'll hash it out. And so that's true. Then, you know, I don't want her to get anything more than she's entitled to, but I do want her to get what she is entitled to. So, but this will all be hashed out if it goes to court by experts, and they'll have competing experts and whatever. But I'm completely sympathetic to the more market-based and sort of reputational-based arguments you're talking about.
I think as well, before we tie this one off, that, you know, those contracts were made without any foresight of what could potentially be around the corner. The contracts were made in a very generic, you know, matter of fact way that they've probably given 100 actors over that period. There has to be some understanding that things did change. A lot changed. And a lot of people were affected.
If she's going to have deals canceled or they're just not going to work with her again, I mean, you got to think about, like, is the extra like 10 million worth that?